was driving his Nissan Leaf on his way to work one morning. As he approached a green light, he noticed another car not moving and assumed the driver wasn't paying attention. It turned out the other driver had stopped for another reason one KN couldn't see or hear until it was too late. A San Francisco police car T-boned KN's car and pushed it into a light pole, totaling both vehicles. Later investigation revealed the cop car hit the Leaf's driver's door at 32 miles per hour. The cop car spun around and struck the Nissan in the back as well, shoving it hard into the light pole. A witness later said the cop car had accelerated before the impact, and both vehicles' airbags deployed. The official police report stated that the officer driving had slowed down for the intersection, and since KN didn't have comprehensive insurance coverage, he got nothing in the way of compensation after being found at fault. KN's Nissan was completely destroyed, and he was briefly hospitalized before making a full recovery. Fortunately, he was able to replace his car with another of the same year. Eli was taking a friend to get his wisdom teeth removed when they watched a pickup slam into the fender of an oncoming SUV, sending it over an embankment and into an irrigation canal.
Oh my God.
The pickup spun around and stopped just short of hitting a power pole while the SUV plunged into the water. Eli helped the SUV driver climb out of one of the rear doors as the SUV sank into the water. In the meantime, his friend helped the occupants of the pickup, an adult and 2 children. First responders arrived quickly and provided aid to everyone involved in the collision. In spite of all that, Eli's friend was still able to get his wisdom teeth removed. Raph was driving his Toyota Camry through New York City on a street with a speed limit of 25 miles per hour. He was proceeding through a green light, giving plenty of room for a double-parked vehicle and traffic in the left turn lane, when a car coming the other way swerved around traffic, slamming into Raph before he could react. His dashcam lost power when the impact occurred, so the video stops at this point. The vehicle that hit him was stolen, and it slammed into him at 55 miles per hour. Both vehicles were obliterated, and Raph was hospitalized with a broken femur. 8 hours later, he had surgery to insert a metal rod into his bone, held in place by 4 screws. Here's what Raph's car looked like before the accident. Now he has no car and hasn't been able to work for months. He's hired an attorney, and they're currently trying to get access to footage from multiple NYPD cameras that captured the accident. We'll update you in a future episode if they're successful. Peyton was on his way home when he watched a Dodge pickup truck hydroplane and lose control. The truck spun and collided with the median barrier before coming to rest in Peyton's lane, where he had no chance to stop even after slamming on his brakes. The accident did $53,000 in damage to Peyton's 2-month-old truck and the trailer he'd been pulling. At first, the other driver's insurance provider refused to pay for the damage, but after he sent them the dashcam footage, the process went a lot more smoothly. Jordan was driving his BMW 340i in New Jersey when he noticed a dark-colored Acura driving erratically. Check out what happened after Jordan had been following the Acura for a while.
There was just an accident! Bro! Holy I just witnessed a accident! Holy
Yeah.
Holy
Heard it. I heard it.
Bro! Yo!
I heard it.
Nah, let me get out.
After the Acura drifted across a lane line and struck another vehicle, it crashed into the center divider before ricocheting across the highway and into the guardrail. Jordan stopped and checked on the driver, who asked him who hit who. This leads Jordan to believe he'd either fallen asleep at the wheel or he was driving under the influence. Fortunately, the drivers of both vehicles were okay. Jordan sent his dashcam footage to the driver of the white Corolla. Katie was a mile from home after driving for 3 hours. When she entered the turn lane at an intersection, she was shocked to be nose to nose with a Nissan coming the wrong way. She'd been traveling at about 35 miles per hour and had to slam on the brakes to avoid an accident. She could tell that the driver was embarrassed by the mistake. Later, when she watched the dashcam footage, she noticed the Nissan can be seen driving through the intersection, turning early and ending up on the wrong side of the island. Advait found out what happens when a speeding convertible loses control on the highway. At over 90 miles per hour, the convertible lost traction before slamming into the back of a box truck. Both vehicles pulled over, but Advait doesn't know what else happened as he wasn't able to stop. Ethan was headed home from school in his 2006 Mercedes-Benz E500 and had just entered the passing lane to go around a BMW when the Nissan Sentra in front of him rear-ended a truck. Ethan slammed on his brakes, but it wasn't enough. He rear-ended the Sentra, turning this into a 3-car accident. He was slapped with a $250 fine, and his liability-only insurance didn't cover any repairs to his car after he was found to be at fault for the accident. He spent a month rebuilding his car himself in his driveway, using parts from another Mercedes with a blown engine. It still needs paint, but I'd say that's not bad for an 18-year-old fixing his first car. This submitter was headed home with his wife in the car when he suddenly noticed an oncoming vehicle making straight for them. He managed to turn enough to avoid a head-on collision, but the car still smashed into them. What really sucks is that this happened only 150 feet away from the submitter's house. Missed it by that much. The submitter initially paid about $5,500 to get his car fixed, which took 3 months. After 6 months, the other driver's insurance provider finally paid the submitter for 60% of the repairs. They told him he'd have to get the other 40% from the driver of the red car that had cut the other driver off. After 3 more months, he finally got the rest of the repairs paid for by his own insurance provider. In the accident, one of the submitter's tires was destroyed, and insurance would only pay to replace one, even though tires should always be replaced in pairs. The submitter paid for the second tire out of his own pocket. A white Volkswagen pulled out of a gas station and crossed multiple lanes of traffic in front of Jet. Everything seemed fine until a wild semi-truck appeared. Jet stopped and helped direct traffic while the drivers involved pulled over to exchange information. He asked for a shout-out for his friends Danny and Anthony and his little sister Linda. They watch every episode of Wham Bam Dashcam and Wham Bam Tesla Cam. Hey everybody, we hope you're satisfied. Jaden was headed to a Toyota dealership when his Hyundai Sonata was rear-ended by an SUV, spinning at 90 degrees and ripping off half of the rear bumper cover and a taillight. Jaden asked the dealership for their security footage of the accident, which gives us a much better angle of what happened. The SUV driver started driving away at first, but stopped a few blocks down the road due to deployed airbags. The car was totaled and had to be taken away on a flatbed truck. Jaden and his passengers were transported to the hospital as a precaution, but they were uninjured. The other driver's insurance provider paid Jaden $23,000 for the vehicle and hospital bill, and he replaced his Hyundai with a Mercedes SLK 350 Sport Convertible. Upgrade! John is a snowplow operator who was working during a winter storm one afternoon. The driver of a Mercury Grand Marquis was driving too fast and spun across the center line and into the path of a pickup truck. The pickup truck hit the Grand Marquis, sending it spinning back across the road. Another vehicle then hit the pickup when the driver was unable to avoid a collision. Finally, a Honda driver, eager to avoid a Honda bump, went up onto the curb rather than rear-end the other vehicle. John stopped and shared his dashcam video with the involved drivers and responding police. Police told John the Grand Marquis driver was confused and didn't even know what direction he'd been going. Firefighters apparently had a hard time extracting him from the vehicle. Melissa was driving to work when her Subaru Crosstrek was rear-ended by the driver of an Infiniti who wasn't paying attention. Melissa's car immediately began notifying emergency services. She then called her fiancé Matt, and he was actually watching a helicopter shot of the accident scene when she called him. Melissa attached the dashcam footage to her insurance claim, and the insurance company paid for her totaled Subaru as well as her medical bills. Losing the Subaru she'd just gotten was upsetting, but Matt was able to find her a replacement and is just glad her injuries weren't any more serious. Herb was driving in Las Vegas when he watched another driver run a red light. That's not what this clip is about though. While Herb was waiting for the light to turn green, as one does when at a red light, an oncoming driver ignored the red light and drove straight through it, getting T-boned in the process. The vehicle kept rolling after the impact, slamming into Herb's Nissan Frontier. The Chevy was a rental and the driver was drunk. When the police came, he didn't remember running the red light and told them that he'd been run into twice. The airbags in Herb's truck had deployed and all three vehicles had to be towed. Fortunately, there were no major injuries. Herb asked us to shout out his wife Jessica and her friend Jennifer. They both love the Wham Bam channels and can't wait to upgrade to Teslas someday. Jeffrey watched a red Mustang sideswipe a white Nissan Leaf, starting a chain reaction that would ultimately involve Jeffrey's Ram 2500 as well. Jeffrey told us that every southbound lane of the highway was shut down by first responders until the wreckage could be cleaned up. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured in the collision. Kyla was driving her Pontiac Vibe when the driver of a GMC Yukon failed to yield to her at an intersection where he had a stop sign, but she didn't. When the Yukon began crossing the road in front of her, Kyla had no opportunity to stop before slamming into it. Thankfully, firefighters arrived only 4 minutes later to provide aid. What was the Yukon driver's excuse for causing the collision that totaled Kyla's Pontiac? He told the police he didn't see her car approaching, in spite of the clear line of sight he had long before he started across the road. Kyla wanted to take this opportunity to remind our viewers that you shouldn't sit too closely to the steering wheel, as this can cause injury in the event of a collision by preventing proper deployment of the airbag. Ram was heading into a hospital parking lot when he had an encounter with a very pleasant pickup driver. Ram started turning into an open parking spot when the pickup driver suddenly floored the accelerator in reverse, blocking him from parking. The pickup driver screamed at Ram through his open window, apparently upset because he thought Ram was going to steal his parking spot. He then backed up the rest of the way, nicely overlapping into the spot Ram had actually been planning to use. Clearly, this guy is such a highly skilled driver, the parking lines just don't apply to his compensate mobile. Since Ram possesses a modicum of emotional stability, unlike the other guy, he gladly parked in a different spot and ignored the third-grade insults that had been hurled in his direction. David was leaving a UPS store in Long Beach and needed to make a U-turn in the road's center turn lane. A vehicle he hadn't seen before came speeding up the lane behind him, slamming on the brakes and skidding to a stop. David swerved right to give the other vehicle room to stop without hitting him, missing his opportunity to turn in the process. The other driver, now enraged, passed David in the oncoming lane, then brake-checked him. With nowhere to go, David was forced to rear-end the other vehicle. The other driver then got out and began acting as though this was David's fault. Eventually, the other driver admitted to brake-checking David and causing the accident, but only after claiming that David had cut him off. Insurance is currently handling the claim, and David's front bumper cover will need to be replaced. Fortunately, nobody was injured. Oddly enough, it seems like the accident actually helped fix the other guy's car. Neither of his brake lights worked when he brake-checked David, but after the collision, one of them started working again. Eman waited patiently for his traffic light to turn green before proceeding through the intersection. Wait, what happened? Let's take a look at the rear camera and see if we can tell why Eman's Hyundai Kona suddenly spun out of control. A Nissan Leaf driver had run a red light, T-boning Eman's SUV hard enough to push it into the pickup truck on his right. It's not until Eman pulls out of the intersection that we can spot the red light runner's vehicle. A patrolling police officer came across the accident scene before anybody called 911, and Eman gave them a copy of his dashcam video. Eman's Iron Man Edition Hyundai Kona was nearly totaled, and repairs took 3 months and $14,000 to complete. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured.